Let's focus just on this very familiar story, an image of Peter beginning to walk on the water for a split second or so, but then sinking. I'm going to pass on to you an idea I came across about that, what Peter does, from one of the resources I look at to try to get ideas for preaching. So I want to give credit where it's due. This is someone else's idea. I'm going to pass on to you. And so we see him, of course, being distracted, you might say, from Jesus by the wind and the waves and the storm and all that. After having good intentions of starting out with enough faith to ask Jesus, to ask him to do this miracle, and him getting out of the boat, but then he gets distracted. Let's compare that to the faith that all of you have exercised and are showing by coming to participate in Mass. And then those of you who have different forms of prayer during the week, if you pray the Rosary or the Divine Mercy Chaplet, or maybe you read Scripture prayerfully. One idea, of course, with Scripture is to find out what the readings are for the upcoming weekend's Mass and read those once or maybe even twice during the week. Read them prayerfully to be prepared. But whatever you might do, but certainly here you are at Mass, and whenever you go to Mass, maybe every once in a while you might get distracted. I'm sure. See, I guess you guys, none of you get distracted. That's good, I can tell. So maybe not you all, but there's at least one human in this building that gets distracted during Mass, and that's me. And even since I was ordained 26 years ago, so I could say, yeah, before I was a priest, I'm a cradle Catholic. Right? I've been going to Mass since I was born, right? So I could say I used to get distracted during Mass, but I have to admit, even in my 26 years of being a priest, there have been any number of Masses where I'm either sitting there or I'm at this altar and something happens in the congregation or in the church building that distracts me, or something I watched on TV last night, or something somebody said to insult me 25 years ago, whatever it is. It's like, boom! Hello! So, us, with these human brains, the brains that God gave us, our brains are easily distractible. And as we speak in the psalm of asking God to show us his kindness, we can count on God to have some compassion and patience with us when our brains do what brains do, when a neuron flips on or a synapse snaps, whatever it is. So what the thing I read suggests is looking at distractions during Mass or during your personal prayer, or if you're with a group and you're praying, whatever it might be, just do what Peter did. As soon as Peter realized he was distracted from Jesus and sinking, he called out to Jesus. He said, "Lord, save me." So if in any given Mass, or if you're praying the Rosary, or you're reading Scripture prayerfully, or whatever prayers you might do, if you do find your brain wanders off, after a few seconds when you notice it, just say, "Lord, save me. Bring me back to my focus. Help me remember what I was saying and what I was doing." And know that the Lord, who made human brains, understands. He's not up there in heaven saying, "You terrible knucklehead, who do you think you are?" No, the Lord's like, "Thank you for asking me to help you to get back into focus." But what if, in fact, whatever thought it is, it could be a happy thought, it could be a joyful emotion, or it could be something troubling or disturbing or disappointing, or it could be anger, whatever whatever emotion or thought. So I don't want to make too artificial a distinction, but for the sake of this idea, something you might think about, so mental, intellectual, whatever it might be, or some feeling or emotion that might come over you. So your brain or your heart, just to use that figure of speech, either thing or together can be the instrument of what we think is a distraction. So I invite you, just a short, very easy to remember prayer is when you find that happening, Say to God, say to Jesus in particular, Lord, bless my brain and help my heart. Okay, it's as simple as that. Lord, bless my brain. You gave me this brain in the first place anyway, right? Bless my brain and help my heart. And then find out where you are in Mass and get back, It's just like I have to do sometimes. I'm like, what? Where am I, So, but what if, in fact, take it a step deeper, rather than looking at it as, maybe a neutral nuisance of the way our brains and our hearts get distracted, make it an opportunity for prayer. That when some person or some situation, whether it's a good thing or a bad thing, a happy thing or a troubling thing, whatever it is, when you first experience it as a distraction during Mass, do what St. Paul says elsewhere. I don't remember the citation, frankly, where Paul says, take each thought captive for Christ. So take that thought like a little bird flying off, get a net and get it in the net and offer it up to God and say, Lord, now that I'm thinking about this anyway, I offer it up to you. So if you're at Mass, offer it over to the power and the grace of the Mass, the highest, deepest, richest, most profound form of prayer, that thing, that person, that situation can then become something almost as if you could imagine it, you're bringing it up to the altar, to place it at the foot of the altar, or even on the altar, figuratively speaking, for God to transform, just as he transforms the bread and wine to be the full body, blood, soul, and divinity of his Son, Jesus, by the power of the Spirit. Take whatever thing you might be thinking about, good or bad, happy or sad, and imagine yourself bringing it to the altar for God to bring Jesus into that situation. If it's somebody you love and know who has either strayed from the faith or from Christian identity or never had it, imagine yourself bringing them up to the altar where Jesus can make himself known to them. So take each thought captive when you find, or should I say if you ever, on some rare occasion, find yourself distracted during Mass or during personal prayer. Be like Peter and immediately say, Lord, save me. Lord, bless my brain and help my heart. And take this thing that just for a split second feels like it's taken my focus off of you, Lord, and help me indeed focus it on you for your grace and your power on me and on the situation that I'm bringing to you in prayer, to convert it from a distraction to an offering